It's exactly 4 after 10 o'clock, and we wrap up this morning's show with the big story of the day, the news of the day, and that, of course, is the long awaited GNU cabinet that was announced by Cyril Ramaphosa last night. And hopefully, there's going to obviously be a lot of debate around this. Is the cabinet way too bloated? Is this a situation of that is to be expected because it's a GNU and everybody needs to be accommodated, or is it a situation of everybody being appeased? And what do the ministers that have been appointed to the various portfolios feel about it? I should imagine a lot of negotiations and horse trading went on behind the scenes, and finally, the cabinet has now been announced. Professor Sipho Seepe, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the program. How do you feel about the new cabinet? Is it very bloated? Are you happy with some of the appointments? Do you believe that this new cabinet is going to be serving the country well?
Well, the first thing that we must factor is what was the political objective. Initially, when the president talked about the government of national unity, the DA understood that to be more of a talk between the ANC and itself, precisely because the DA had a sway in terms of numbers. To say, no, when we talk about inviting people, we are being serious, and we are also inviting all the voices that may have received a form of political traction on the ground. So what we saw was Ramaphosa's commitment to that idea of a government of national unity. But at the same time, he also ensured that the DA gets its fair share in terms of the ministers. But there's something that he was able to do cleverly. One is to find a way in which he could neutralize the DA. And he did that by saying, yes, you can be in, but I also need the people who are ready to go to battle for me. And given the triumphalist tone of the DA, he felt that the parties like the PAC, parties like the Patriotic Alliance, parties like the UDM can serve their purpose. And it is for that reason that he was now willing to dish ministerial positions and deputy ministerial positions. So that was one part that he had to deal with to, as he put it, to ensure that there's a durability of the government of national unity as a first prize, and also to make sure that the DA does not hold sway in that government by bringing strong forces. Then the second issue that he had to try to do is to dilute the strong black opposition voices. But when you enlist the likes of Bantu Olomesa, when the likes of Gayton McKenzie, you begin to eat into the opposition. And anyway, the DA's entry also weakens it, because it cannot be an effective opposition as it has always been. You cannot want to be in government on one hand and then at the same time want to be seen as in opposition. So you see also the dilution also of the historical posture and behavior of the DA. So what Ramaphosa tried to do is to get first the protection for himself, and also to try to give the ANC a sense of being in control.
So you reckon that Ramaphosa played his cards very well? Obviously, there was long discussions and analyses that went into the appointment of the different cabinet ministers, and he obviously didn't do it on his own. He did confer with a lot of of his current ministers and current advisors, he must have conferred with them very deeply in coming up with this strategy. Do you believe that the cabinet as it stands now is going to serve us well as a country? And let's look at the issue around deputy ministers. In the past, the DA was very critical about a bloated cabinet. They won't be able to raise that issue now, will they? Because they are part of the cabinet of the government of national unity.
Yeah, I think you see parties shifting their posture now that they've been accommodated. It is one of those things where people are opposed to something until they are co-opted into the very same thing that they are opposed to, and suddenly they see the light. But what is also clear about the politics, and even before we start even thinking about whether it will succeed or not, is to come to the realization that parties engage each other for political power, and they each have their own agenda. So the agenda of the DA does not disappear, because the DA must also satisfy its own constituency. And we saw that even with the letters. The ANC, on the other hand, must also be able to save face and not appear like it is rejecting its own constituency. All parties have an eye into the future, and the future is that they would like to do better. So it is very possible that despite this seeming sense of working together, you may find the ministries belonging to different parties pursuing an agenda that makes them look good into the future. Anyway, that even within the ANC, the ministries were not talking the same language. You found the ministers not subscribing to what their previous minister had advanced. And sometimes them being disagreement between the ministers themselves. For instance, we saw people talking about the differences between Pravin Gordhan as well as Gayton McKenzie. So what this portends is a possibility of that heightened different agendas coming in. Now no longer coming from one party, but coming in from different parties.
Okay, let me talk about electricity and energy. The minister there still remains the same, Ramakgopa, but prior to the elections and prior to the cabinet being announced, there was criticism around having a minister of electricity and energy. Certain quarters were suggesting that it's really a waste of time and money. Do you believe that up to now that Ramakgopa has served the country well, holding that portfolio? Is it necessary, or do you think it could have gone under another portfolio, absorbed into another portfolio, and not have such a top-heavy cabinet?
There's no doubt that we could still have done without the Ministry of Electricity. What you have here is simply Ramaphosa heading to reward a lot of people who he considers to be loyalists. So that is the challenge. Yeah, so it's about loyalty, that I must reward those who were with me. So we could do without that. There isn't any doubt about it. And also, once you have ESCOM that is functioning well, which was the very idea why we end up having this ministry, things would have been very different. And they would not have needed that minister. Some of us understood that ministry, and the ministry was even presented as if it was a stopgap to deal with the immediate crisis of load shedding.
Okay, I was very pleased to see that Enoch Godongwana still holds the ministry, the portfolio of finance, because he has served the country very well up to now, and undoubtedly will be doing a very, very good job heading up finance. Would you agree with my sentiments there?
Well, that sentiment is not only yours, it's a sentiment of many people within the ANC, even the opposition. That's why they did not want to fight for their portfolio. But anyway, at the same time, the ANC was not going to that portfolio. It is one of the portfolios that they make or break a government, because it's all about the allocation of the resources. It's the same way as the ANC wanted to keep trade and employment and labor and employment, because it is those departments that also deal with issues of affirmative action, and they could not entrust that to be in the hands of the DA.
One or two controversial decisions, or maybe we as lay people view it as being controversial. Pre the announcement of the cabinet, we do know that the DA and John Steenhuisen were eyeing the deputy president's position. That did not come to pass. He has now been appointed Minister of Agriculture. Do you suppose there was a lot of really heavy talking points and lots of negotiations that went around that appointment, and the disappointment as far as the DA is concerned that John Steenhuisen was not appointed as deputy president? Do you think that they were overly confident, thinking that the president would in fact give him that post, that position?
I think they overstated their importance, and they were also at that time talking to a very weakened president. I do think that it is possible that the initial discussions went that way, but the pushback within the ANC was so strong, and also people like me who had also had written that should the DA get to what it wants, we are going to end up with a DA-led government. And I do think that all these things weigh heavily in Ramaphosa and also the leadership of the ANC, that the optics do matter. And if you're going to put the Steenhuisen at that level, you are actually providing him with undue attention. And of course, many people would have been interviewing Steenhuisen continuously if he was given a position in the ministry, in the presidency, or as a deputy president.
And finally, two very important issues I want to bring up is the retirement of Naledi Pandor. Undoubtedly, they have a strong person in the position that she has vacated, and that, of course, is Ronald Lamola. So good on President Ramaphosa for giving Lamola that ministry. But isn't Naledi Pandor's retirement, and look, nobody is irreplaceable, but her retirement, isn't that a loss for us as South Africa, as the government?
No, I mean, she is one of the hard workers, and as somebody who has been in government, Naledi is also one of those ministers who respects Parliament. Not so long ago, the Million Guardian did a study on people who are forever present and those who are absent from Parliament. Naledi was among the only two who were seen to be permanently in Parliament when they need to be in Parliament. So you're talking about somebody who respects Parliament, and also that she understood herself as a representative, public representative. She was also very effective in all the portfolios that she had. And of course, she was good, but there might be also people who need to learn, because it becomes also dangerous for us to keep people because they do so well, then make them indispensable. It's the same logic that some people were trying to use about what is the Ramaphosa goals, as if the whole struggle was fought for centuries to come and protect one person. So when people need to go, they need to go.
Okay, and finally, the controversial minister and his portfolio, and that, of course, is Gayton McKenzie. How do you view the ministry that he's going to be heading up, and is he up to the cut?
Gayton can turn that ministry around. The challenge that we have in this country is really about the values. It's about gangsterism. So all we need to do is to find space for people to say, how do we make sure that our young people have something to do? And sports becomes something that will unify. The notion of culture. I grew up in under apartheid, where every afternoon we could go to youth clubs. Even under apartheid, it did provide an outlet for the kids to do something like dancing, poetry, play chess, softball, soccer, and all that. Right now, that doesn't exist in township. And Gayton understands a level of crime that has visited our nation because of the absence of outlets for the young people. So he can turn that around, and sports can be a unifier, and culture can be a unifier, and there are many possibilities. And he has the energy to run with it.
Professor Sipho Seepe, always a pleasure talking with you. Thank you indeed for your insights on the cabinet of the GNU. I'm sure we're going to have many more discussions going forward. God bless, go well, and till the next time, always wonderful having you here.
Sure. My pleasure.
It is exactly 21 after 10 o'clock. Thank you indeed for your company this morning on the show. I'll be back with you on Wednesday. I beg your pardon. I'll be back with you on Thursday. So till then, I'll leave you in the company and in the capable hands of Salailo Makwadiri, and you go well. Assalamu alaikum and Khuda Hafiz from me, Julie Ali.